for giving us your time today for VR Gamescast. I'm Ian Hamilton in New York, joined by Don Hopper in Missouri as we discuss what people are playing in VR headsets. We're wearing Quest 3 with last generation meta avatars. I'm using hand tracking and built-in microphones. And we just published a very, very big article on UploadVR.com that we are going to get into very deeply on VR Download with David Heaney. So tune in on Thursdays for that. But man, Don doesn't know anything about this.
I don't.
It published right as he was writing for the studio. Don, do you know what the IVAS program is?
I do. It's a military program.
Yeah. So what's the company involved in that program?
That would be Microsoft HoloLens.
Yeah. So not anymore. That is Anduril's project.
Whoa, really? Okay, so this is what you were teasing before we came online. All right. Yeah. Well, man, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so that is a project now headed up by Anduril. That would be Palmer Luckey's company that he started after being at Oculus and after leaving Facebook, and a defense company. And now it is a company making augmentation for militaries. So they're going to be using VR headsets in one way or another, I think.
Interesting.
Over the long term. So that's a big change for the market, and something we sort of saw writing on the wall in our VR Download episodes. If you go tune into that over on Thursdays with David Heaney, we've talked about the IVAS program a lot. And, as I just tested here with Don, he passed the test. He was familiar with the program. And now we know that the program has moved hands to a different place. So quite a big deal, quite a lot of money for the U.S. Army to spend on augmentation for soldiers. So big thing to change today. And it's going to shape our discussion in a big way as we go on. I figure this is a good time to talk about that sort of thing before we get into our games for today and change subjects, because Don, a lot of what we cover are like war games. They're playful shooters, and that's changing. Like it's the meaning of practicing for warfare is changing in a very real way, in a very public way for the first time. Don is gray over here.
Yes, I am.
can see Don fully textured. We don't have his texture. I told Don that I would gray myself in solidarity with him, because I felt bad about some of the comments complaining about the fact that he's a gray avatar. I don't think we need to deal with it anymore. He's gray. When we update to the new avatars, I can't wait to see what he looks like. But we'll also, you're spending an increasing amount of your time in virtual reality, second layer of virtual reality, right? We're layer 1 here, but increasing amount of your time on our shows, you're spent inside of your living room playing a game, right? And on this TV. And if you don't get your avatar fixed soon, you might just appear like that all the time. And
I could literally come in IRL form, and that would really, really break the entire space-time continuum, I'm sure. But Sampler 19's asking who's complaining, and I know, actually when I get my pigment back, I think there's going to be some people who are kind of sad about it. I mean, the whole Graydon thing has become lore at this point. Yeah. And Graydon blesses you all. Thank you. But I would like to look like me again. I see myself right here, and it's like I spent so much time getting my avatar to look like me in the real world. So more to come. We've got until March, and then David will have to update the studio, and then we will all look a little different.
Yeah. So I want to say thank you to XR Developer News, Podum, HoloNet, Mike Manzano, Richard Miller, Aaron Bellamy. Those are our patrons over on the website. Thank you so much for your support, and thank you to all of our members for your ongoing support of our work. I see people reacting to the IVAS news, IVAS news over in the comments, and go check out David Heaney's article on that on UploadVR.com. We'll have more on that as things progress. Very curious about the testing of that program. Very curious to understand the optics. And the thing we hinted over on the show, the thing we're going to discuss on VR Download is, what's the future for uh, see-through optics if we have VR winning in this way. Basically, the thing I was thinking about, Don, I messed with, I've been setting up you ever set up a camera in your office?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, my
Well, I mean,
office. I mean,
obviously
quite a
sorry,
few
obviously, but
cameras.
like
I mean,
for viewing it remotely, I guess a
yeah,
security
no, I
cam.
do. I do. I actually have. I have one of the little Ring security cams that I do keep in the studio at all times, just to make sure
So
that
Ring
no
is
one's
pretty common. I've
breaking in
never
there.
been a Ring person, but Rings
We
are
we won it.
everywhere, right?
Yeah, we won one at like it was a door prize at some event that we went to at my wife's work, and I set it up, and it's been in there for a couple of years, and I got the little app on my phone, and it's kind of nice because there is a door that kind of leads right into the studio from the back of the house, and I just want to make sure that all of our equipment is secure. So
Well, so here's my question. Have you ever set the security cam up facing outward from your studio so that it's like a rear view camera for your VR journey? So
oh
if
no.
anyone decides to come in or a package drops on your door, if someone is coming up to your door, you've got a window up here floating exactly like a rear view mirror,
Hmm.
just like a car, and you see them approaching your door while you're in Half-Life Alyx or
I
whatever
have
game you are.
not ever done that in VR. I've done something similar with XR glasses, using the VII stuff because it's now fully Google certified, and now I can see my doorbell camera, so I can actually have it up in a little window in my little sunglasses if I'm walking around, if I'm expecting a package or something. But I can see where you're going with that, and that would actually be really good to have that ability to have that camera facing inward, and then just at a tap of a button, or just be able to pull it up and see what's going on in the office, see if somebody came in, see what see what the pets are doing. So interesting. So I'm assuming that you got that set up.
Yeah, I did. Well, I was testing it out as one of the configurations. I don't have the camera in final position yet, but it was very, very interesting. Yeah, you've got the Apple Home app,
Okay.
contains all of those Apple cameras now, all the HomeKit compatible hardware. And yeah, you can have a rear sort of view you can pull up the iPad app for the Home app inside Vision Pro and then make the security cam over here while having 6 other windows as a command. It's a command center,
Oh, that's so
and
cool.
one of them is this rear view camera, so you can see whether you're going to be interrupted
You got your
before you're
whole mission
interrupted.
control there. That's so
Yeah,
awesome.
and that's I think my kind of point, right, is if you go read the report that David Heaney published. Highly recommend it. I think we've got some of the best reporting in the
Oh
world
yeah, absolutely.
on this technology, and David Heaney is uh, someone who I trust to break it down for you in ways that make sense. So he's done that, and we've got that on UploadVR.com. But that's going to be a long-standing subject we're going to come back to. We're going to talk about this is going to shape our discussion on shooters going forward. Airspace Defender, this game that we love, hand
Yes.
tracking game, super fun. My point, I'll explain it further on VR Download, but like that rear view mirror idea, right? Like that's just one window of 10 that you can have around you with a wide field of view augmentation, like, with wide field of view VR headset. And then you layer on the real world in various ways on top of that base level of command control, right? Of 7, 8, 9, 10 windows all around you, each controlling a different device, a different thing. That's something VR uniquely provides.
Yeah.
You're only ever going to get like one window out of AR glasses because of the
Yeah.
limited field of view, and
No, and I
that's
agree.
that's our competing future. How are we, like you could get a great one window, and that would be fantastic on some AR glasses, but it won't match the power of what I just described, and that's I don't know. It's crazy. So let's get to our real subjects, and I'm
Okay.
gonna bring this around. What's our first subject of the day, Don? And
Well,
what are we covering?
yeah, Ian, I think today we should talk about one thing that kind of came out of the blue and surprised us was that was the announcement of Civilization 7 coming to VR. And then I think we should break the ice a little bit and give our opinions on ColdVR's launch on both PC VR and Quest last week. And then to round things out, I feel like we should follow up. I really think that it deserves a little deeper discussion from last week by talking about Meta's response to developers' concerns around several different issues, and our reporting, from Henry, just absolutely knocked it out of the park with that. So, but, I really got to get your opinion because I have not been a Civilization player. I know you have recently played it on your ultra wide setup. So, Ian, tell me what you think about Civilization 7 coming to VR.
But yeah, so the one unique thing about our show is we've got our live comments here, and so we can see it. We love, if you're new to this, we love seeing our comments. Speak up if you somehow popped into this show. We are actual humans wearing avatars,
Yes, we
and
are.
we do respond to these comments. We then cut it up and put it out on podcast platforms afterwards. So if you're listening to us on podcast, thank you for listening. And if you're catching up to this show later, time traveling, thank you for catching up and listening to our squeaky voices at fast speed. I love the comments here, and I catch up to them over time. And there's Davin Bigelow who
Yes.
did the blues song, and I only hear the blues song in my head. But it was here's a story about a little guy that lives in a gray world, and all day and all night and everything he sees. Okay, so I'm about to get into it again. And then, he's talking about the Great On experience being the pass-through
Bless you, my son.
the children will not ever know existed. Back in my day, kids, our pass-through was black and white.
Yes.
Yeah. It's that's literally where it started for VR in the
Back
century.
in my day, kids, we didn't have pass-through. Just saying.
All right, so the Civ thing, and the reason I brought up that is because I transitioned off of the first subject where I'm talking about something we're going to talk about in VR download because of a comment. I was reminded by our commenters over here that we needed to discuss Civ, and the commenter in particular just ripped apart this Civ situation. It's fascinating to think about. Okay, where is it here? They said, why would I want to play an entire Civ game in VR, basically?
I saw that
was
one.
the comment. And my heart goes out to the person who's asked that. It's a fantastic question. So I have downloaded Civ 7 on my Mac. I got it via Steam, and I booted it up in ultra-wide virtual display, and I set it as one of my windows in this command center on Vision Pro, right? And so I set it over there, this turn-based game that is fantastic. It's a great, amazing game, but I set it up as one window sitting over here. And then I set up another window with a movie playing that I want to watch via Blu-ray. I've got a Blu-ray player hooked in here, and it comes in here, and I'm watching a Blu-ray movie. And I'm just watching the Blu-ray movie and distracted. And then I come back over here to my mouse and keyboard, and I make a move in Civ 7. And then I go back to watching this over here. Then I've got 4 other windows here also that I'm playing with. There's just various things that I could be doing in the headset, various apps I could install. Then I go back to this game. No, I would not want to sit there for, like, it would such a small. So one of the things my office could do right now is I've got a physical ultra wide, and my spouse could play on the physical ultra wide while I play on a virtual ultra wide. Okay. And we play this game we both enjoy quite a lot, Civ. But we haven't done it yet, number one, because the game just came out. It's a little buggy. The UI could be improved. The performance could be improved. All those things could be bigger. And could be better. And we've also got to learn the game. But this setup should work, where she's playing on the physical ultra-wide right here. I'm seated watching her play. And I've got a virtual ultra-wide right here. And I can look over and see hers if I want. Or she can have her private strategy over here on turn-based strategy, and I'm doing my own private strategy on turn-based strategy over here, and we could play together like that. But that's a big ask. That's a 4-hour game where I'm expected to be in headset the whole time. What happens if at hour 3 I want to pop off the headset and play the game on my Mac.
Oh, good point.
And well, that I can do that. I mean, I can do that in a Vision Pro. I can do that in that setup with my spouse. Oh man, I need to take a rest here. I take the headset off. The script that the game, hypothetically, I tested this. It has to do a whole process. Should suddenly whoop, disappear, go back into my physical monitor right here, and then I'm playing on the game on system right here for a few minutes, and I'm eating my chips and take a break and have a lunch break. Then I go back into headset and I get this big giant virtual canvas on which Civ 7 displays beautifully at a resolution that could never really do it justice on this little itty bitty laptop screen right here. So that's hypothetically where we get to with the Apple ecosystem. I tried this, but like I said, performance is not great. The game just came out. I have to learn the game. And when I go to ultra wide on an M2 processor, an M3 processor with limited RAM, you can start feeling the frame start stuttering, like it's not updating at the rate it really should. And so like you're back to that old thing that Macs can't play games, and that's such a messed up thing because all I'm doing is using a last generation laptop with minimal base level RAM, and like that's not asking that to play games like Civ 7 in ultra wide is a bit absurd.
It's but probably the ultra wide. I mean, because I Civ 7 shouldn't be that demanding. I mean.
No, well, but you're also, what if you're painting? So the silly thing about it is when you do the ultra wide feature on Apple Vision Pro, you can set the desktop to 10K, 5K, or I think 3K. I think those are the settings for like the actual drawing of this big giant super horizontal frame that you get. Well, if you go up to 10K, imagine that. You're actually letting the game render at 10K, 10K pixels wide. And then you're displaying some fraction of that inside the display, right? Like you're essentially super sampling your entire world down to this headset. But at the end of all of this, you've got a game that is a performance like pipeline that is horrible for the game, right? Like you're not getting any kind of the frame rate you're doing. But I've messed Factorio, you go get the game Factorio, suddenly you can see the entire map of this world that you've dropped into in a single frame right in front of you because of the way you virtually set the resolution here. Well, imagine Civ 8 where the entire world, like again, I've just started playing the game, but like that's a game where you have to get 4 hours in to turn 60. And now suddenly 60% of the world is unlocked and viewable. And if you're doing that in ultra wide, hypothetically, you're looking, you stretch the ultra wide so it's almost 180 degrees. It's going all the way left to right here. And you look all the way around you, and over to the left over here is your home base over here. And you look all the way over here, and off in the distance is the other continent that you're fighting a war with in the 200 AD period with trebuchets and whatnot as your weapons, and you're fighting over here because you've stretched the screen out so wide, and it looks great. It looks like it's wild that it looks that well. It's all flat.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you, but what I really want to see though is the mixed reality in it. This is going to put Civ right in your room. You're going to be able to stand around the mixed reality table. You're going to be able to watch the world grow as it expands. So, I've never been really into those types of games, civilization, world building type of games. One thing that you said earlier, though, that really hit home for me was when you were talking about having it up on your ultra wide display over here and then watching a movie over here. And it really took me back to the days that I miss, and that is turn-based RPG. Turn-based anything. I love when I can have that experience where I can really have a game where everything stops and it gives me time to think, to strategize, to to make my next move, or to go make a sandwich, or to watch 10 minutes of a show that I've got over, on my other window. So that in itself is interesting. And then the mixed reality that it's going to bring, any of these types of games, I really hope that we do get the ability to resize, and manipulate that. I also really hope that the multiplayer is similar to what you were describing with you and your partner. I mean, being able to have someone play with you, even though you were in the virtual reality or mixed reality environment, and then they're playing just on a standard laptop or a gaming PC.
Yeah, a reminder for the folks. It's funny. There's a lot of people that are unfamiliar with Civ. There's some people that are just this changed their life, right? Okay, so
Yes.
let's get back to this idea that this is a game board right in front of you. What if the items or the assets actually pop up out of the
Mhm.
game board volumetrically? The mountains are actually mountains. The
Yes.
cities are actual cities popping out. It's a so I was asked what are my thoughts on this, like just
Mhm.
at a very broad level. I think this game, Hidden Quest,
Mhm.
either represents the beginning or the end of Meta's ambitions in VR gaming.
Ooh, that's deep.
Yeah, it's a very very, yeah, very tricky
How do you
way
see
of
it as
wording
the
this.
end of their ambitions in gaming?
Yeah, all right. So I think if a game, the format, like this idea that I see in our comments, these people are talking about, how does this work? How does that same thing I just described work in Meta's ecosystem? I'm at hour 3 inside this Quest headset. You and I are playing Civ 7 for
Mhm.
3 hours together, okay? And we're some of the only places, this studio, us coming in and conversing with one another, sometimes your shows, those are the only times people sometimes spend that long in VR. Like
Okay.
normally most trips are 20 minutes, 30 minutes, a half hour, 45 minutes
True.
max. Like you pop the headset off after a little while. But the deep dive people, the people that are actually retentive, like the walkabout players, those are 2 hour sessions sometimes. And then we're going to 3 sometimes on our shows here.
Mhm.
um, you start talking about 3 to 5 hours even on a Civ game. Like these things can go long, especially if you're like doing other things during the game, and it needs to live inside of your ecosystem. So there's versions of the Civ franchise on things like mobile phones and iPads, but it's lacking certain features. And I saw one of our comments here also bringing up wanting I think it's cross play and cross save.
Mhm.
Those are the two things we are asking about. So we've nailed it in our conversation here with our audience. Our commenters bring up the two chief concerns that would be in my mind as a player.
Yeah.
Can I
No.
play against players on other systems? Do my saves continue to other systems? Those questions, number one, I don't think are answered right now.
No, not yet.
And what that makes, like, if those things become no's, that makes this version of the game more like an iPad version of the game and more like a mobile version of the game than like the PC version of the game that I'm flexing out into ultra wide, and I'm also getting into the super small screen, right? Like, and how much of it forces or requires the Horizon ecosystem to make this 4 hour gameplay session work. So at the end of the day, I want the game board to be, I want every game board to look like Demio, right? Every game board should look like Demio. That's
Yeah,
great.
I agree.
Okay. But I play a game with my spouse called it's Clank. And it's a board game on Steam. I've talked about it previously.
Mhm.
And it's a physical board game with I think there's a Kickstarter even for one of their legacy editions right now. Dozens of board games around this one board game, but they just released an iPad version that I didn't even know about. All right, so I've been playing this game on Steam linked, and I can play it in my VR headset while my spouse plays it on the TV. And we're synced up to one view, like we've got the same board viewing for both of us. And when I have everything piped right, she's seeing the screen in 4K. I'm looking at it in a very, very, probably 4K too here, but in a very high resolution up inside my headset. and all we're doing is we're passing a controller back and forth to play this board game. Well, I can walk into the other room and the board game follows me. All I got to do is go back and get I can see what's happening in the board game. Anyways, how does one game extend between all of these different instances? And so during the end of the show, we're going to talk about Meta's larger
Yes, we are.
ecosystem and their need to succeed on long-term ambitions like Horizon Worlds. But how do they pull off something like Civ 7 in all of these scenarios, like this simple board game that's a flat screen on Steam accomplishes for me right now, right? And then Civ 7 on Steam on a Mac accomplishes quite a lot for me right now when I can pull the headset off and still keep playing the game, right?
Yeah.
Meta obviously has Horizon Worlds, but are you really going to is that going to work? Are they going there? Like, does that work? Do you take the headset off and now the game is now in Horizon World? And
I don't see that
you're
happening.
taking a few turns here?
I don't know. I don't see that happening. And real quick, I do want to address something from Chris Richardson here. He says, I think you guys are confusing people by mixing the Quest and PC versions in conversation. And that is true. So really the gist of our conversation today is around the upcoming port that is coming to Quest 3 and 3S later. But, I asked Ian what his opinions of the game is, and this is what he's played so far is by playing the traditional version in his Vision Pro on the ultra wide display. So
this is a game. So there's a Quest version coming, and it's personally sort of supported by Mark Zuckerberg. So Mark Zuckerberg, CEO of Meta, is a big fan of the Civ franchise, has played them all, and has been. I remember, I think there was an interview, something with I don't know if it was Andrew Bosworth, where he talked about Mark Zuckerberg's fandom of Civ, and Zuckerberg gave him a look, and Bosworth got freaked out, should I not have talked about that? And here we are a few years later, and you could kind of imagine what Zuckerberg might have wanted back then when he sort of made a look at his CTO. He wanted this game on Quest headsets. So here's Zuckerberg's dream. You go into his headset and you play a game of his favorite game for hours and hours and hours. I would expect him to be a bit this is to be his dream game, right? I would not be surprised to imagine him testing the waters of his platform by this marker, right? Can Mark Zuckerberg put on a Quest 3S and play an entire game of Civ from start to finish for 6 hours? Is that something he's going to do regularly?
That'd be awesome. I think Mark, if you're watching, you need to stream Civ when it launches, and let us join you.
So. Don, can I assign you to that? If Mark Zuckerberg is willing to play, yes. Will you try to outlast Mark Zuckerberg?
Yes, I will learn the game, and I would do that. Yes.
It's not even learning. You got to learn the game. So he will destroy you. He will destroy your civilization.
Just annihilate me. I mean, it would just be literally we never even got out of the Stone Age.
Yeah, Mark Zuckerberg is going to eliminate. You remember there's a Rick and Morty episode.
Yes.
Where they go into virtual reality within virtual reality or something. It's a game within a game. And spoiler alert for that episode. It's a fantastic episode. The joke at the end of it was, if you play the simulator of life in a really weird way, that he plays in such a way that the baby never even gets a social security card.
Mm-hmm.
That's how off the grid he gets the baby in the simulator of life. I love that. But that's how much Mark Zuckerberg will take you off the map in this game.
Oh yeah,
you won't have a social security card after.
I would be absolutely terrified, but I would totally take that beating for all of our viewers. So Mark, any day, we could smoke some meats. I'll bring some sweet baby rays. I'll fly out. I mean, whatever you want to do. We'll do it in person. We'll do it here in the studio.
My heart goes out to the Meta employees who are grappling, who are remaining there grappling with layoffs this week. My heart goes out to the Meta employees who have lost their jobs legitimately. It's a terrible time. I've lived through layoffs at companies, and it's never a good time. So legitimately, let me just, there's some humor in my voice, but also just my heart goes out to if any
Same.
Meta employees are out there dealing with this. But also, please clip that out and send it to Mark Zuckerberg's desk. It's a
Yes,
formal
please.
challenge. He's throwing down the gauntlet to invite Mark Zuckerberg to the future of civilization
Absolutely.
over the course of a 4 hour or 7 hour session inside. We're the place. Don is ready. If you've got to tap out, I think we've got the technology to like have someone else join for you.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
No. I mean, we could like tag team it, and
but you would let Mark Zuckerberg outlast you in VR in a single session?
well, no, I don't know. I mean,
You'd be like 5 hours,
what?
Mark.
Okay.
You beat me at this.
No. Okay, so that's a good question. We've never asked each other. So, how long is the longest you've actually ever been in a VR headset, start to finish?
I did all night, but like there's also pulling the headset. I've thought about that before, but there's always
Well,
brief
bathroom breaks.
removals.
Okay, I'm gonna say bathroom breaks, things like that are
Yeah, like
acceptable.
and
But
even in the Guinness Book of
like the
World Records,
longest
I
gaming
think they're
session.
Guinness Book of World Records, whenever I see someone try to break one of those records, they usually allow for like stacking breaks or
Mm-hmm.
stacking sleep in order to do these things in a healthy way, hypothetically. Yeah, no, I'm gonna say, I mean, I've done the biggest sections I can think of is it's like these studio visits where I do 3 hours, drop out, take a 20-minute break, and then do another 3 hours
Okay,
or 4 hours. And then
that's respectable.
Boneworks, Half-Life Alex, those were, I think Half-Life Alex was probably 3 hour sessions, 4 hour. I don't know, but like there'd be 5 to 6 hour sessions of just watching a movie, taking a
Mm-hmm.
headset off for 20 minutes, and then doing
Okay,
another
so
4 hours.
Onakazi hit mine right here, 8+ hours in both Elite Dangerous and No Man's Sky. So when I first started playing Elite Dangerous was back in the very early days of the DK2, and I mean when we were just switching from DK1 to DK2, everything was just still super exciting and new, and well, I mean not for me because I had been in VR for a long time, but it was like new because it was actually really good finally. And I got Elite Dangerous. I mean, I bought the alpha or the beta. It was like I paid like $180 for that game back in the early days to help support it, and I'm glad I did because it is still going strong and it is an amazing game. But I will never forget the feeling of my wife coming and tapping me on the shoulder. And I lifted off my headset and said, "Hey, what's up, hon?" And she goes, "Do you realize that you've been in that chair for 13 hours?" And I said, "What?" And I mean, I mean, overnight, this was overnight. So, I mean, obviously I got up to get a drink or to go to
Long
the
haul
restroom or
space
something.
trucking, yeah, that's what
But I straight up, yes, space trucked for 13 solid hours because I was so awestruck by what I was seeing for the first time in that game. And I
yeah.
had just built the battle chair, and I mean, it clicked all the boxes.
So so my spouse doesn't like Black Mirror. She won't watch Black Mirror, and
Oh, I
more
love that
power
show.
to her for not watching Black Mirror. Like, don't let that inside your brain if you don't
Yeah.
have to.
Oh, yeah.
Some of those episodes are fairly they'll stick with you. The one though that really I would probably recommend as an introduction to the series, because it's so good and it's also messed up at multiple levels, but it's also just phenomenal at a different level. It's the episode with the Star Trek show
Yeah,
within the
the
Star Trek
McAllister,
show,
USS McAllister is the
USS
episode
Callister. Yeah,
is the episode name, and it is absolutely my all-time, obviously, favorite episode of Black
but
Mirror.
the simulation that they have depicted inside of that story is very much what Don is describing with Elite
Mm-hmm.
Dangerous, right?
Yes.
That's the moment. Like that's day-long presence, right? Like you have
Mm-hmm.
moments of presence, you have,
Ian,
right?
if Bridge Crew would have been more than what it was, and if we would have had multiplayer and online, and I could have had all of my friends manning the actual stations on the bridge of the Enterprise and flown off and found you with your ship, and all of a sudden you show up on my view screen, and I mean, I probably never would have left the headset.
My
I mean,
my wife would have already brought in the divorce papers if
yeah,
I was
pretty
in
much.
14
Yeah,
hours
she'd have
straight.
just put my hand. She'd put the pen in my hand. I wouldn't even take the. She'd just be like signing for me. I mean, It would be insane. But and yeah, I saw a couple of comments here, and a lot of them are agreeing. Elite Dangerous, Elite Dangerous, Elite Dangerous. It is such an easy game, even today, to still get lost in, and especially today, because when I was playing, it was super basic. I mean, there wasn't hardly anything that you get now. Unfortunately, Frontier never really followed through with their VR ambitions. So when they finally did do the one update that I was waiting for forever, which was the ability to get out of the ship, walk around the stations, walk around the planets like you do in No Man's Sky, they never added VR support to that part of the game. You can still fly the ships, you can still space truck, you can still, explore, you can still do combat. I'm still waiting for the day that I find a planet that I actually get to name, because that's something that you get to do in the game as well, and it becomes permanent record. But if you have not played Elite Dangerous, it is super cheap these days. If you have a VR headset and a relatively decently capable PC these days, get the game. And if you are a space nerd, you will literally sit there with your jaw on the floor the first time you come out of hyperdrive into the corona of a star. It is just
But
breathtaking.
So I see in our comments people talking about the idea that like they were watching YouTube in their Elite Dangerous
Oh yeah, I do it all the time.
cockpit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine playing Civ on Steam,
Yeah, you
right there,
could.
floating right there, and you're good to go while space
Yeah,
trucking.
you totally could. I mean,
Yeah.
there's nothing that would be stopping you from that. And I couldn't even imagine. I mean, I know it's your favorite headset. I couldn't even imagine playing Elite in a Vision Pro
Yeah.
with the resolution that
Oh
would
God, I
bring.
mean, like,
And
don't even get me started on, like, I have yet to, like, that's honestly, so I've done a ridiculous amount with my setup, right? You've heard
I know
me
you have.
talk about it, you've seen it,
I
I've
love it.
talked about the show, and I saw people in the comments are like, why is Ian laughing? All right, number one, because relief that the IVAS news is
Yes.
finally in public view, that it's known. Like it last year, I went to AWE to watch Palmer Luckey on stage with the CEO of Big Screen. And I put questions to them about military use of VR back then. Like, I think the writing was on the wall that this was the direction overall. So seeing that finally known since last year is a huge relief to kind of like, now we can talk about this. Now we can like, this is a big area for us to discuss going forward. Now that news is on our website, that this is the direction. Like, we don't have to defend ourselves so much about VR anymore, right? Like, it's a military technology,
Mm-hmm.
and it's here. I can point to it as like it's actually got uses in the military that go back quite a long ways, and like we're just getting some of those things in our everyday life
Mm-hmm.
via VR headsets that are $300 or $500 or $3,000. And so like that's part of my laughter today is being able to enunciate that more clearly to so many people, for our audience to be able to go and say, look, you've got this link at uploadvr.com talking about the IVAS program, IVAS program at the US Army.
Mm-hmm.
This is why, like we spend so much talking about these Orion glasses, right? Like I got messages from family saying, where are these glasses
I know.
that Mark Zuckerberg just showed off on stage at Connect? Now I can send him a link that says, hey, no, actually what you kind of saw up there was science fiction. Like, yes, that they can show this as a conceptual product and it feels really cool to wear, but they can't ship it. What you can go out and buy right now is a $300 VR headset, a $3,500 VR headset, or in the years to come, you can enlist in the military and put on a VR headset and use one for your job there. So there's also training. Walmart, everywhere tried VR headsets for their training.
Yeah.
I think people said that they didn't like that system very much. Like, they ended up just using the normal training videos in large scale because there was an option to use both. But like, that's the whole
Oh.
gamut of like
Oh my
training
God.
all across the board is covered by VR headset.
So you know how my mind works, and I just keep going back to the early days all the time. So you start talking about training in VR. Did you ever play The Hard Way?
No, I
Or
don't
do you
remember that
even know
one.
what I'm talking about?
No.
Okay. So there's a really old video on my channel where KFC released an app, and it was kind of in the beginning of the CB1 days, and it was kind of a mock training app where you are kidnapped by Colonel Sanders and you're locked in his basement, and you have to learn how to make original recipe chicken to ascend out of the basement into the break room and get your job at KFC and your certificate. And I always question whether this was a real training, because Colonel Sanders is kind of lecherous and kind of weird and smarmy,
It, does,
and he's
it
talking
doesn't
about
sound real.
making
And
chicken
they
with your
protect
supple
that
human
recipe. Was it the
hands.
real
And
recipe? What was the recipe?
well, they won't give you the obvious recipe, but it shows like the steps, like you got to wash the chicken, bread the chicken. It was so if it, a little piece of VR history from back at the turn of DK2 to CB1. Go and look for an app. I'm pretty sure you can still find it out there somewhere. It's called The Hard Way, but it is a hilarious little VR training app for KFC.
Yeah. So I was saying what's fascinating about my setup, Don. I love that story. That's a fan.
Sorry, I always have to share these
hysterical.
weird stories.
I'm waiting for the commenters to be like, I played it, because right now it's just in your head. It doesn't sound like a real
let us know
thing.
if you played The Hard Way. I'd like to know if anybody else actually knows what I'm talking about.
The Colonel straight up kidnaps VR enthusiasts.
Yes.
The commenters are searching it, and they're discovering it, and their lights are. This is what Great On brings.
Oh
right?
man, I'm telling you, if we could throw up YouTube videos, I would throw it up right now. I've got it somewhere.
Don't send Beck on a search, okay?
Right,
I don't want some random The Hard Way that isn't the right hard way.
We'll do a whole show about training or something, and maybe we'll find that and resurrect it or something.
Well, Don, are we ready to move on to the next subject,
I think so.
Is there anything else we want to cover here?
We've definitely gone long on the first subject, and definitely I know we're going to be long on the last subject. So buckle up, folks. It's probably going to be a longer show than usual. So the next subject here is our review on the site for ColdVR, and it is a game that I was actually really, really interested in when it first got announced. I loved Superhot. I mean, who didn't? It was groundbreaking. It was like time only moves when you move, and kind of like we were talking about earlier, it was to me the first turn-based VR in a way, because I could just stop, assess the situation, figure out what I wanted to do. So here we are all these years later, and now we have ColdVR. And ColdVR is like Superhot in reverse. So basically, the premise of this is time always moves if you stop. Time stops if you move. So you are constantly in motion trying to navigate these, mazes and these levels. And where the game should be very, very good, it kind of falters a little bit. So the level design is a little too tight. Some of the placements of what you're trying to get through, it just, like, I can tell you, I don't want to spoil it, but at the end there's one section where you literally just start with a bullet coming straight at your head, and you have no time to duck or anything. And it's like, there was a lot of frustration in this, a lot of restarts, and of course, that's the nature of the game, is trying to figure your way through it. But then there were the performance issues as well, and it would run good, and then it would run choppy, and then it would run good, and then it would run choppy. So definitely needed to spend a little more time optimizing the game, especially on Quest. And that brings up, and Beck, if you want to go ahead and switch real quick to the comparison, that brings up the difference between what you're getting on Quest and what you're getting on PC, even in a game like this. And if we have the video now that we have the video on the screen, I can show you on Quest, everything just looked muted. It's like, I know Quest can do neon type effects and things like that. So I was really scratching my head as to where most of them were during the time that I played it on that system. So when you see here on the screen behind me, you're going to see the Quest side looks very bland, very muted, very pixelated and aliased. And then you're going to see the PC side, which looks like, really neon drenched and just crisp and sharp as you would expect a game like this to look. But no matter which system you play it on, you still had those performance issues. And that's what I keep coming back to with this is that I couldn't get the game, even on my system on a PC, to run at full frame rate the entire time. And so that shows me again, it just needed some more optimization.
So I want to get to that last subject because it's such a big
Oh yeah,
subject,
yeah,
and
yeah.
this sounds like, like I hate to like make the meta commentary here before we're done talking about the game itself. So is there any comments you want to cover
They're scrolling
from the
pretty
game
fast here,
itself, or is
actually.
there anything else you want to
I was
add?
just
Because I see people
looking.
talking about like serious graphics cards, and that's what I want to start
Yeah,
transitioning to
yeah.
discussing
No,
as
no.
a
Go ahead and transition. Like I said, it's. I'm not really seeing anything that looks like we need to respond on you just yet.
So tune in soon to Upload VR as we've got more graphics comparisons hitting. Donna's doing incredible work breaking those
We
down,
gotta.
and we're starting to see themes in the graphics comparisons, in the
We are.
performance situations, in the layoffs. We're going to get into that with the last subject as we discuss this industry. We will expand on it more on VR Download. But I want to talk about the 5090 generation out there. These people that are fighting for 5090s, right? We have a freelancer who we've got a video incoming here that shows this of a 5090 running in like some of the most impressive worlds you can
Oh yeah.
possibly imagine.
Flight
Fallout,
simulator. Yeah.
Flight Sim, and you look at what the video comes out of these worlds as just crisp, detailed, all the way down to the surface of the planet, right? Like from the sky, like it's
Mhm.
just crisp. Uh, it's startling how beautiful and wonderful VR looks at that. If you go get a modern graphics card, you go and shell out more than $1,000 and get a proper system. And I was going to say this, Don, that my system here, I've actually gotten laughed at a little bit in our audience with good reason, right? I'm still sporting a 2080 up there. I'm still
Oh,
sporting an
I'm sorry.
old graphics card. I'm still running an old PC, and in fact, I can run this studio, this thing can run on an Intel NUC.
Yeah.
The basic $100 basic Intel processor. You can go install the Oculus Store. You can install this studio. Then you can take an HDMI cord out or put it into OBS, and boom, this studio is broadcast to all of you out there from an Intel NUC. I haven't needed to upgrade from that 2080 machine, despite knowing that I can sit in a chair right here and spend 13 hours in Elite Dangerous
Yeah.
or Flight Sim or whatever these others, and just at the 4K resolution that I would dream of, like it would do everything I want it to. But it's such an extraordinary expense. It's so hard to pull off. The heat that it'll put out is actually the stopper for me right now, because I don't want to heat up my room so much
If
using a
yeah.
graphics card like that.
I can see if you were in a smaller office, yeah, no, that would be of concern. I mean, and I've got to say, I have a 4090 so far. Right now, I'm still not feeling the FOMO of the 5090 just yet. I mean, I can run Flight Simulator at pretty much full detail on just about everything. You have a little frame hitch up here. What was impressive was seeing the amount of jump that we're seeing from even a 4090 to a 5090 and what it can bring for VR. And so it's definitely on my radar. Now, I know right now they are still really hard to get. I know I saw over on Twitter, I think it was Mateo311, had actually fought through. I mean, he had like multiple windows. The guy's got a video about it, but he fought through the whole process. He got one ordered, and then literally the other day when he was, I guess, supposed to receive it or it was supposed to ship, he just got a just mystery cancellation. So, and that's not the first tweet or post on social media that I've seen about that too. So I think some places overbooked a little bit, oversold. So hopefully everyone who did fight through all of that craziness on launch day does get what they ordered. I'm gonna personally, I finally started to see some of the variants. I personally use Zotac cards. I'm a big fan of their hardware, so I had been waiting for them to see what they were going to come out with. So I don't know. I'm on the fence right now. It's like I want it, but I don't need it.
So Arlen says something here. My 3060 starts crying whenever Thrill Seeker and FIA have a VR chat event, or when load up a heavily modded Skyrim mod list.
Oh yeah.
So I appreciate that thought, and I want to think about the people that attend those types of VR chat events. So in my office, that's also a closet right now, I've actually put my VR headsets in with my clothes for the first time. They're sat with my clothing, so they feel more like actual clothing
Oh, interesting.
than they ever have before, because I go and grab one, and one of them in there is Big Screen Beyond, which chugs really poorly on the 2080. It's not enough.
I can see it.
I need to go up from there. But VR chat and putting on a Beyond and then strapping on all your trackers, right? If you've got Vive trackers, like it's the same sort of deal. You would go into your closet, your clothing room, and you're putting on clothes. You're putting on these trackers on your arms and your legs, and then you're going out to see your friends in VR chat. And after you've got your avatar on, you put on the trackers, you've picked out your clothes, your virtual clothes now, after you've gotten your body on, your undergarments, so to speak. And now you're going out to meet with people in VR chat. And this is my big philosophy question I want to ask for everyone out there. So Arlen is saying my 3060 starts crying whenever Thrill Seeker and FIA have a VR chat event. If this is your going out, if I just described going out to you as a VR chat person, is your investment in your PC like your investment in your home?
I get that. Yeah. No, and you know what? I would say that if that is your thing, then yes, you should, because VR chat is difficult, and if VR chat is your thing, if you want to do all of the things that Ian was just talking about inside VR chat, you want to do the mocap, you want to do, adding all those extra layers is not going to be forgiving on a mid-range PC. Each layer down each level down the rabbit hole that you jump is going to add more work for that PC, and not just the GPU. You need to look at your CPU as well. Look at your RAM. I mean, it's. I hate to use the phrase, if you want to play, you got to pay. But if you really want to have the best experience in those applications, then yeah, you're probably going to need to spend a little bit of money and time and invest in that PC setup. Now obviously, when I say time, learn to build it yourself. I mean, it's not that hard to build a PC. There's 1,000 tutorials out there. Where you waste a lot of money is buying off the shelf name brand PCs these days. I can usually build a good solid high end gaming rig for a lot less. So, just invest the time, invest the money, and but I got to say real quick before I end up, I love what you said there about getting dressed. I always call it suiting up. But I got to get the haptic vest, I got to get the gloves, I got to get the motion trackers, so it's
so I mean, I've done this in a couple places. I don't think I've taken photos of my closet VR setups, but like when you need a command center and you don't want to redo the house, or like you don't want to disrupt what's already there, reclaiming a closet space as your first command center actually makes a lot of sense.
Oh, it does.
Because like you've got the walls are actually insulated a little bit for sound because of the sound of the clothes stopping you yelling as you're playing a VR game. I love the commenters here, and I love the quick responses from our responders saying yes to my hypothetical question about the investment in your PC. And I think that's I think that's something I want us to sit with as a community, like as an audience. Like I appreciate the quick responses there. So if the answer is yes to your investment in your PC, think about what that says about the photo of the person cuddling in the corner in their VR headset,
Oh,
right?
I
The
know which one you're talking about.
dystopian image
Hmm.
of the person who's living in wreckage, but they're actually feel warm and held in VR and everything is glowing, right? Like there's there's a balance, there's a slippery slope we're all scared of here, of things going like this. But I'm not going to like look down on people who suit up and go to VR
Mm-mm.
chat events. That's
Never.
as far as social connection is concerned. Like, what a time saver to go and meet up with people, right?
Oh
Like that
gosh,
way.
yes. And just to as I always call it, going down the rabbit hole. I mean, just anything that peels back another layer and gives you more immersion, and I'm willing to take that time to suit up, to go to those events, to, beef up my PC, to be a part of that community, to be able to enjoy my time in there. So absolutely, wholeheartedly. Yes, and Siegfried, yes, we want the Matrix. I'm ready. Just, whenever you guys, as long as it's not forced, as long whenever y'all want to just install the jack, and I can just go
As long
in.
as it's not forced. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the. You're right. You're right. You're going to go full neural input. I think that I don't know if I'm going to go full neural input. I'm not.
I don't know if I could go for full neural. No, it's like what is
The
it? It's like,
jack. The
yeah,
Oh God,
but I don't know.
that shot. It's such an incredible scene. Like the music of that
Yes, it
shot
is.
of watching the jack go into his head and just
Yeah.
the
No, it freaks me out.
visceral. Oh God.
I would love though full dive. I mean, it's like we talk about that, the holodeck all the time, or full dive. I mean,
Oh
just anything that really just makes me feel like I'm 100% there.
yeah. I mean,
So,
so go read the. Like I said, I'm just another recommendation to go read David Heaney's IVAS report
oh,
that
I
we've
can't
got
wait.
breaking that
Yeah.
down. But also, if you, I assume there's a link somewhere in there to the palmerlucky.com website where Lucky has a blog, and his last paragraph in that blog post says, "However crazy, something like however crazy you think I am, multiply it by 10 and then multiply it again." And that's the
Nice.
stuff I'm working on, is more or less the indication. So yeah, I'm gonna throw that out there while you're talking about neural input stuff. If there's one person out there that's gonna be messing with that, it's gonna be him.
I could see it.
Um yeah.
Well, he's been talking about biomodification for a while. So I
Why are we
remember back.
talking about Ready Player One and Matrix? Come on, let's get back. Come on, Don. Let's get back to the holodeck.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, right. I know I kind of like veered off of that and like introduced some new fodder here. So
That's fair. But
yeah,
like there are so many dystopias, right? There
there
are
are.
so many dystopias.
We
And
live in. Oh wait, did I say that out loud?
what did
Just
you say?
I said we live in one, but
Yeah, I
yeah.
know.
So
It's and honestly, like go look at um go look at science fiction now and realize that that Iron Man probably wore a VR headset with pass-through augmentation.
yep.
He wore a suit of armor that protected him from bullets and rockets, and then he had a pass-through view beyond that ironclad bulletproof protection to show him the world on the outside of that. And that appears to be the model of the future, of that
Hmm.
appears to be winning for optically augmenting
Oh God, yeah.
augmenting people.
Add the AI in there. I mean, you've got Jarvis now. I mean, so I could totally see all that coming together. I mean, we've already got AI in our meta glasses. I
Yeah.
mean, walking around talking to your glasses already. So
Oh
why not have it
gosh.
talk back to you and just, make it be truly your personal assistant? We're so close to that.
My friends are into cars, woodworking, guns, or even partying. High-end PCVR is still way cheaper. Ooh, I
Hmm.
love that. If you think about the drain of like going out for drinks every
Yeah.
other weekend, right?
Oh
Or every
gosh.
weekend.
Oh, I can't even imagine that these days. Like we luckily got a date night. I mean, it's very rare these days that me and my wife get to go out on a date. And I don't very rarely drink, but I decided, it's a special occasion. I'm going to celebrate a little bit. I ordered a drink, and they were like, that'll be $12. I was like, what? I was
Mr.
like, for a beer?
Mr. Mycelium, the age of techno optimism is over. Technology that was meant to bring us together has made us more divided. We can't even agree on what's true anymore. Siegfried, I like talking to Copilot.
I was going to comment on that one. Yeah.
So what I've imagined is I want a Renaissance fair in Central Park, New York. I want everyone to walk into I want like the city to be inundated with like a Woodstock of Renaissance fair folks,
Mm-hmm.
but I want a bunch of them in doing the away
No, that's
away
what I'm
missions,
saying.
right? They're
I'd
going to
go,
be
but
in
only
VR
if I can
headsets doing away
be in
missions.
an away mission. Yeah, I mean that would be the dream, and especially in the VR headsets. Shout out to Ren Fairs. Yeah, absolutely big. I mean that's I've always wanted to do that. I've always wanted to throw on my next gen uniform and just grab my tricorder and just walk around in a Ren Fair and just like watch people look at me. But doing it from inside a VR headset would be even better. So, because they know, then they don't even know that we've got pass through. You could be walking around in the pass through and like checking it all out, recording it even, it's like, so.
Beck says that they're throwing a Ren Fair in Georgetown, Ontario. So
Ooh.
that's where the Woodstock is apparently for Ren Fair and VR.
All right. Well,
Eventually.
upload VR retreat in Georgetown, Ontario
Yeah,
at the Ren
I
Fair.
don't know.
So
Where's I'm going to have to be pointed to that on a map. I'm an American. I'm sorry. You're going to
I'll
have
say
to
the
like
only
point
Georgetown
me.
I know is in Texas.
It's over this. And I don't know which part. It's which part of the I don't.
She's saying it's near Toronto.
It doesn't help us, Spec. I'm sorry.
I don't
It
even know where
doesn't.
Toronto is. That's sad. It's like if you gave me a map of Canada, I probably couldn't point at it unless they're like, So
We know there's 3 cities. There's Vancouver, Toronto,
yes. And
well, what is Winnipeg? Is Winnipeg in Canada? What is Winnipeg?
I think so. I don't know. I'm surprised Beck's not screaming in our ear.
No,
at this point.
she's just. I don't know if we've lost her on the ear because like she's that upset at us. Like she's just tuned us out. Okay, no, Beck.
Okay.
But we did hear Beck. We hear Beck now.
Okay.
Like we've got her going. Yeah,
she's
upset.
So, okay. So,
yeah.
Okay.
Toronto is in Alaska.
What is a Ren and Stimpy
I think
fair?
We'll fact check that later. Okay.
Ren and Stimpy Fair Sampler 19 is where you get Space Madness. Just saying, best episode of that show ever. So
we can see Canada from our house.
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right, Don, are we ready to talk about the last subject here?
I think so. I think it's time. I mean, and this is a big one. I mean, this is like it was interesting. We had some reporting. They had a response, not necessarily to our reporting, but maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. So we did the follow-up report, and we basically we'd been on this for weeks. Henry Stockdale had been talking to developers, and we timed it out. We sort of figured out what was going on, and this is probably going to continue. It's not a great time for any studios that have a lot of outside investment, a lot of employees, and not enough sales to show for those games that they just released at the end of the year. We've got the imminent. What is the release timing for Alien Rogue Incursion, Don?
I believe that comes out on Thursday.
Okay, so Alien Rogue Incursion.
And I don't think it's breaking embargo. I think we talked about this yesterday. We will have coverage tomorrow.
Yeah.
On Upload.
So come back to our coverage of Alien Rogue Incursion. That is going to continue this discussion of the VR market and where it is. That game got delayed out of last year to be re-released on Quest this year. And if you put it in like a list of all the other tentpole releases we go through, Behemoth, and now we just talked about ColdVR, which was a game we wrote about a bunch in the releases. You start seeing the decisions being made by devs that are very, very difficult about getting these games on multiple platforms, about tuning performance for specific hardware. It's not we're trying to be as understanding as we possibly can of the struggles of devs, while also being crystal clear to our audience members and patrons out there what is not working and what is working in the VR space. I see Gamertag
I do.
out there. Hello. Are you playing Civ 7? We are
No,
going to play Civ 7. I've been
yes,
practicing.
yeah,
We have to, earlier in the show, Gamertag, we challenged Mark Zuckerberg
yes, we did.
personally to play Dawn. And the thing is, the competition will be won in 2 rounds, as I've challenged it, as we've laid it out. Okay. Number one, who wins Civ 7, right? Like, who wins the game? Okay,
Oh,
so
he's gonna win.
we expect Mark Zuckerberg to remove Don from the social security record. Like, he no longer has a number. He's gone. Okay, that's how much we expect him to destroy Don's civilization. However, here's the question: can you Rocky it?
Oh,
Can
this is
you
true.
make him wait so long
I'm starting to hear
that
the
one
music.
of you have to break out of the headset and leave the headset?
Yeah, there you go. I could just just hit me, Zuck, hit me, hit
Apollo
me.
created, he's Rocky. He's got to make him go the full 12 rounds, go the full, get to the year 2100 or whatever. Make him go to modern times before he takes you off the map. Can you do it,
If
Don?
I could get to 2476 and gain photon torpedoes, it's over.
So here's the question: Zuckerberg is supposedly like god tier, right? And okay, so he's supposedly incredible at this game. Here's the question: could we do a UVR versus Zuck 2 after he wipes you off the map, right? After you fight your best, right? And it's a 20-minute Civ game, right? He just comes over on a boat right at the beginning of the game and takes over your capital, and that's it, right? That'll be the end of UploadVR's attempt to beat Mark Zuckerberg at Civ. What if the second time the UploadVR community could be in your ear watching your game and helping you?
Oh,
and
I love
Zuckerberg
that.
has to operate alone.
Oh, I love that.
And we have like a henchman standing over his back with giving him a pat down to make sure he has no augmentations to receive outside instruction. And we put him in one of those glass rooms you see the e-gamers wear, the professional gamers fighting.
Yeah.
And then we have him battle against you in the UploadVR community.
I got to be
and
in
see
one of
if he can defeat Zuckerberg's attempt to take over civilization.
I'll never forget being in the glass cube. That was kind of fun. It was the first time Oculus ever flew us out to a conference. It was PAX East, and it was when Beat Saber was dropping, and we all got to play Beat Saber in these big glass cubes, like we were in a people aquarium, and people walked around looking at us, watching us play Beat Saber. It was really interesting.
All right, Mark Zuckerberg. All right, here's the challenge. All right. If you believe in your headset, you hold an event where you invite all of a bunch of influencers and journalists and people who play Civ, even the best players in the world.
Oh, I think that'd be amazing.
A whole series of a series of 20 people who are going to come in and take you on, and you put on the best Horizon OS headset that you can make, right? And you wear it for the duration of playing every single one of these people coming to battle. You pull out Civ 7 and you're like, come on, Don, I'm gonna destroy your civilization. Come on, Gamertag, I'm gonna defeat your civilization. He just goes through the row of just, I'm gonna destroy your civilization, and that's what we do. We have it. That's what the next Connect should be.
Oh, I could agree, Gamertag. I think Brad would be really good at Civ, actually. So, but and again, I mean, Mark, I know you love it, man. I'll spend like 16 hours smoking a couple of briskets out on my competition smoker, and again, I'll bring some, like a couple of gallons of Sweet Baby Ray's, and we'll just make a time of it. I'll bring some like sun tea, and it'll be great. So let's do this thing.
We're this close, team. This audience. So I want Beck. So here's the dream, right? Okay, Beck's favorite game is Witcher 3. Okay.
Yes.
So I want to see Witcher 3 just floating right there, and she's having a time, and she's just showing us Witcher 3, right? I want to know what's the best spot in the Witcher 3 world, and I want her to take us on like a little cross-land journey through the Witcher universe, right?
Oh, that would be so awesome.
Like, and imagine a Skyrim player is like, okay, Skyrim player, right? You're the world's biggest Skyrim fan. Show me right now the best spot in Skyrim.
We talked about it on one of the game streams, on one of the mod game streams that we've been doing the last couple of weeks, and there is a mod for Witcher. I've just never installed it. I've heard it's kind of hit and miss, so it'd be nice to see a proper mod, the way that we're seeing all these really cool mods that we've been featuring lately, added to that. And if we did, I think that would be amazing, because I've never played the Witcher games. Loved the series on Netflix with Henry Cavill. It's going to be interesting to see how they make that shift for the new series. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think it would be amazing to have like Beck talk me through the game, like on a VR mod and playing it for the first time. I think that'd be amazing.
Okay, so do this. So if you can have Beck's PC with her world of Witcher 3 floating for you in the VR mod, then she can tell you what to do next by just showing you on the screen. Right, like she can go to the next spot in the tutorial and say, Don, you need to go do this. And you literally go do that.
Yeah, I could do multitasking in the headset in the Quest, and then I could parsec as one of the multitask windows, and then I could probably see her gameplay and then be in the game. Ooh, that would be wild. We'd be like so many levels deep. We'd have like in VR, in 2D, in VR. It's mind-breaking.
Think about how engaging that is for everyone involved, right? Don is the VR fanatic, right? Loving VR for decades here, been obsessed with the idea that this technology is actually going to come to pass. And then Beck, who we played Walkabout, but has some comfort concerns, but like obsessed with this game world. And you can suddenly have a tour guide to the game world, right? Like in your ear as you get to enjoy the game in the best possible format. Great. Like it's so engaging for everyone.
Well, and it's very similar to what we're doing. Just to kind of do a little quick plug here, it's very similar to what we're doing on our developer focus streams, our members first developer only focus streams, where a lot of times those developers are kind of walking me through their games and showing me Easter eggs or telling me what I might have missed. So having that experience is fantastic. And I do want to say something. Siegfried mentioned here. He says never played that game, but in VR. Hell yeah. And that's one of the reasons I haven't played it, because I do hold out. Okay, so Skyrim, I held out for years. I was a huge Oblivion fan. I mean, I played Oblivion for so many hours a day on flat screen. It's not even funny. But when the first time that people started playing it in VR, when we started seeing Vorpix added and we started seeing just basic support, but it didn't have hands, it didn't have this, I skipped on it. I waited years and years and years and years to play this game that was so near and dear to my heart, because I wanted to experience that world firsthand. No pun intended. I wanted to actually feel like I was a part of it. And sometimes if a game is really that for you, and you see that there is hope on the horizon, especially these days with the amazing modding community that we're seeing spring up in virtual reality, maybe wait. We may see a great Witcher mod here pretty soon, Siegfried, and I'd be right there with you. I've never played it, but in VR, hell yeah.
So. Yeah, Skyrim is one of those games that's never clicked for me. I've done that ride on the cart multiple times, and then I get to the first city and I falls off. I don't know, something, or the caverns and stuff. I don't know, something doesn't work.
I think you got to mod it. Is that okay? Skyrim vanilla was like, okay, it was neat, and same thing. It's like several times I'd get past the first city, and then it would just kind of start falling out of the wayside. The minute I started getting in and learning how to mod it and making it look just cinematic, and just absolutely breathtaking. Now, most of the time I spend in the game just looking at scenery and just like walking simulatoring it and just enjoying my time in there. It's one of the things, like, I've actually dropped like 15 pounds. I like getting on my Catwalk C treadmill and jogging through Skyrim. Just going for a run next to a river, or next to a mountainside. It's just kind of a weird experience, and I never thought I would enjoy jogging or walking, but when I do it in that game, it's like, okay, cool. I'm just like in another world, just walking around in this meadow. So
yeah, I love the commenters. People are talking about Fallout. stay tuned for our coverage very soon where, yeah, Don is walking through some of these. I saw someone asking for Alien Isolation with mod, that they wanted mod for
We're
hand controls over there. And
yeah,
I think that's a hard one because of the way
that
you
one's a
get
hard
stuck
one.
inside the cabinets. There's no place for your hands to go in
Yeah,
the
that
game
that
world.
one would be difficult. And I mean, there are just so much that these modders can do. I mean, they're doing amazing work, but we can't expect to get full hands, full bodies, and everything. But I'll tell you what, the things that we have seen so far are just absolutely mind blowing, and we will continue. For at least the next couple of weeks to be covering some of these mods. I want to do deep dives. I heard there was a mod for Black Mesa. I'd streamed the Lambda 1 Half Life 1 recreation the other night. I'm a huge, huge fan of Half Life. That's what started my home VR journey back in like 1998. So I can't wait. If this Black Mesa mod exists, we will be doing that. I want to show Half Life 2. That is like the biggest mod out there. It actually made it to Steam. So and sky's the limit. So if you are a modder, I mean, just a real quick plug, we want to talk to you. We want to see your work. So if you are modding games out there, if you are adding virtual reality into these amazing AAA games of the past, present, or even future, hit us up, tips at uploadvr.com, or DM me anywhere you can find me, because I want to talk to you.
Yeah, it's really fascinating when you take a step back and think about what the modding community is and how
Mm-hmm.
it develops, right? You have a very well-loved game, some game, a property that's owned by a developer or a company, and you've got a bunch of players that love the game so much, they're like, I want to put this in it. And the developer has to decide, how much do I shake their hands and let them mod
Mm-hmm.
my world? And um, we've had this emerging community around VR where you can go and get a growing solid list of games from the 1990s and early 2000s that runs really well at 90 frames per second on most hardware.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get features like body holstered weapons. Some of these games you get changing perspectives or changing cameras. All of that from fan-based mods who the thing Farmer's asking for is for you to support some of those modders who are out
Oh,
there
big time.
creating things.
Yeah.
And it's not this, like, think about that, right? Some people out there would just think it's piracy all the way down, right? This is all a bad thing, and that's
Mm-hmm.
not what this is. These are
You're still buying
very
the games.
careful people who are big fans of the games themselves,
Yeah.
supporting the purchase of the actual software. Again, here 20 years later, and then modding it for use in VR,
Well,
and it's actually supported. You're still supporting those artists all these
and
years later.
what blows my mind is, and we have reporting of this just this week on Upload, John Carmack went and was like, look, we got to get these Team Beef mods on the store. They're going to make at least $1 million. He's guaranteeing $1 million, and they still said no. What up? It just that baffles my mind, and that kind of should transition us back. We really got off topic because we weren't talking about mods. We were talking about a pretty serious subject that we should probably get back to. But for them to say no when the man's just sitting here guaranteeing $1 million if they get this mod on the store right now, official, make it official.
Yeah, Biggs making a flat out comment here that Team Beef has been the best part of Quest, and I think there's a good case to be made. There's a couple, I don't know, Batman Arkham Shadow didn't click for some players, but it did
Yeah,
click for a great number of
it
players,
did.
right?
It did.
And that would be arguably one of the big things of the Quest platform. But then
I
right behind it, you get you get that scene I saw you and Beck playing out with the flashlight and Doom 3, right?
mhm. And that's what I was about to say. And I said it during that stream. To date, and I still believe this, the Doom 3 mod from Team Beef is the best looking thing that I have played yet on Quest 3. And it runs good. It looks good. It's just, if you're not playing that game, you need it. And Framer True need that Prey VR by Team Beef to fully launch. That definitely look at our stream. I think I may have talked about that a little bit on the stream, but the Prey mod should launch for you. You just need to make sure that you launch it one time and let it crash, and then it should be good to go. So
So back to the subject, and I'm just gonna babble here for a minute, but
yeah, bring it back.
yeah, we are in a very tough market for everyone, and in particularly VR developers who are struggling against decisions Meta is making to shift its platform in favor of directions that are really, really profitable for them. We had a blog post that came out from Meta that we wrote about, sort of responding and explaining that there's a rise in free-to-play content and a rise in in-app purchases. We also got a data point from Walkabout Mini Golf, Mighty Coconut, that they said that January was their biggest month on record for in-app purchase sales. They had the biggest one-day sales for the Elvis course that they just released, their 31st course. You take indicators like that and you realize, okay, there's still a massive growing audience for certain certain products, but not others. And what are those? And then you get Andrew at Alchemy, the head over there at Alchemy. He went on record with us, sort of indicating that even though Job Simulator is in the top performers on some of these stores, or particularly on Meta storefront, it's still earning money-wise far less than it did in the past. And his indicator from being able to view the performance of one of VR's top games from Google, essentially, on Meta's platform, that there is less money overall being put into the store. So it's getting taken up by Quest subscriptions, Quest Plus subscriptions, and then some hypothetically coming out in other places, maybe Horizon Worlds. But there's a change here that Meta needs to have happen with Horizon Worlds in order for it to find success, according to the comments from Bosworth. So we've got this situation here where, by all indications, okay, those people that were worried about quitting the VR market last week, like if you've been at this for 10 years and you're like, Meta may pull out, maybe it's time for me to pull up stakes, right? Like those folks. We'll get into this more on VR Download. I don't know if I'll take the time with David to do this, but I've got space here to go back and say, think about this a little bit more holistically, okay? Apple makes a $3,500 VR headset with amazing pass-through capabilities. You can go try it in any Apple store in the United States and in many places else in the world and see what they think is the future of their computing platform. You can go to a Best Buy or a Target and get a $300 Quest 3S for just a handful of dollars. Bring it home and then return it if you don't like it, but experience what it's like to have base level pass-through at home for that sort of thing. I think Don muted himself and then talked to Beck.
I did. I'm sorry. I was talking to Beck for a second. I was she was trying to help somebody in the chat, and I was giving her the answer to let them know. Okay.
So Beck can only hear Don in the studio.
I did not know
streams.
that. So,
but I want that feature. We need that feature, Beck, because it's exactly like, I think it's Rainbow's End and other science fiction features, where I just watched Don suddenly start talking to the ether. He started talking to a remote person. And that's wild to be like, oh, his mouth is moving, but I don't hear him. I know he's talking to a person that isn't here. That should be a feature we have, like we had in some situations.
It should like a chat bubble should come out of my head or something, you know.
Yeah, he's a little remote, like a can goes to your ear, and the little rope goes to the side of it.
I love that. Oh, that'd be hilarious.
Oh, all right. Well, all right. So Apple, you go Meta with a VR headset with pass-through, right? You get Big Screen Beyond, $1,000 VR headset that you can add VR chat body tracking to very quickly for just hundreds of dollars more. Get your PC, go into virtual reality completely. You have first-person viewer headsets that are affecting the war in Ukraine that are even more powerful when you add VR to them. Okay. And then you have the IVAS program that was just announced as switching from HoloLens technology to something else, to shipping with Palmer Luckey's Anduril technology, and go zoom in on the photo that he has on that page where he's recreated his Time magazine cover, if you recall that image. Yep. Don he's doing it again.
Wait, I've got no legs, so I can't. I was going to try to do the whole thing.
He's doing it again, Don, in the headset he plans to ship with the military.
Awesome.
Okay. So, and this new headset, go zoom in on it, look at it, try to understand what its optics are and how it differs from the HoloLens headset that we've seen. But it's a different day for VR. This is a different phase for virtual reality. So you see Meta, right? Okay, Meta is having all these troubles, all this pressure. And what it looks to me like is the sharks smell blood in the water.
Yeah.
That Quest 1, 2, and 3, and 3S proved the market for VR. However, Meta is struggling with the fact that everyone around them is ready to eat them in every possible way imaginable. Okay. So, like, that's what Mark Zuckerberg is facing with the future of his civilization. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I mean, you know, and I mean, it's always going to be that way. I mean, you know, you put out these successful products, you build that industry, and everybody's going to circle. The sharks are going to circle. You know, I mean, and that's normal. But I don't know. I've got a comment here that it's Mr. Mycelium. And I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence with this one. He says, I'm going to say something controversial. I think a lot of Meta's issues with reach and marketing start with Boz. I think Meta lacks focus, and Boz seems to be at the heart of that.
We will discuss that extensively on VR Download, and it's a very interesting theory. There's a very broad question to think about here, right? Of, did Meta spend $150 billion or $100 billion over the last decade on the right things?
Yeah.
What could they have spent $100 billion plus on instead that would have secured them a better position right now? I think Mark Zuckerberg may be asking himself some of those questions, and Andrew Bosworth would be one of his top lieutenants whispering in his ear, only in the CTO role the last little bit, but still there quite a bit, whispering in him. Think about this on the larger span of things, right? Think about things like ad space. So on our last show, we had David give a little essay on why he thinks ads aren't a problem. And it was a very lovely little segment. Go listen to it at the end of our last show, where David just drops a needle and, right, like, just goes off on the fact that ads aren't that bad overall. I'm going to flip that around and go, yeah, he's not wrong.
No,
but
it's not.
Technologically speaking, VR headsets are like a brick wall to advertisement of any kind. You have to ask permission to advertise on the other side of the VR barrier, basically. So whoever makes the VR barrier for you gets to say whether you get to advertise on the other side of the wall, so to speak. And so Apple gets complete control over, when you put that headset on, every single moment that you're in that headset, right? They can choose whether you get a pop-up every morning saying, every hour in your Vision Pro, you could get a pop-up saying, you haven't stood up this hour. It happens on an Apple Watch.
Oh, yeah.
You get a notification saying you should stand up this hour. They could do that on Vision Pro, and I haven't seen it. I don't think that's a fitness feature yet. But that's just the beginning of Apple having to choose, how much of your reality do I want to, like, impinge upon? Like, how much do I want to invade your private space?
Nolan Sorrento? Really? So yeah, it's like
Yep.
that's the conversation. Ready Player One is like, how much of the visual field can we take up with advertising before it becomes, you know?
That
So my thing is like, look, pop ups and stuff like that. That would annoy me. Okay, like literally, I'd be ready to rip the headset off. I mean, if I chose that pop up to tell me to get up and whatever, then so be it. That's not an ad though. Advertising could be done really well in VR by billboards. I mean, you're driving through a game and you've got a city out there. Well, okay, I don't have any problem having little commercials come on in the car radio or little commercials come on in a television because that is mimicking my real world experience. So again, to me, that would almost be an immersion enhancer in VR because it would make it seem more like real life when I'm in there. Now, do I want it to fill my entire field of view? No, never. I mean, don't force your advertising upon me. That's why we have ad blockers. That's why we have all of this stuff that I have to run constantly in my Chrome browser. But if I'm in your game, if I'm driving through GTA 7 or whatever, whenever we start seeing stuff like that, and you want to put real world advertising in it, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I think Apple, or I think we've got a good track record here with covering everything as it happens. So, like, I Am Cat came out of nowhere from a
Mhm.
no-name. I think the studio was even New Name Folder or something. Like, it's a weird studio name. Um, and uh, like, it came out of nowhere and then was suddenly at the top of the store for weeks and months even. And all this game did was made you feel like a cat. It
Mhm.
fulfilled this playful dream that was a hit with the core audience. And here's this comment from someone saying, most people complaining about the store just actually miss when the games library was smaller and curation blocked the smaller indie content from flooding it. Totally a valid concern that, like, of course you made it in, you fought your way in, and now it wasn't worth it. It wasn't
No.
worth it. Now
And
everyone else has
and
access. I get
and
it.
I got a little pushback on that. I don't think anybody's against the indie content. I think what people are against are the Horizon worlds. It's like I don't want to see Horizon Worlds pushed to the top of my feed. I don't want to see Horizon Worlds pushed in my face when I jump in the headset. It's that's what I'm against.
So do we have, I think Not Suspicious, did we do the personal call out on our stream for you to get a dev kit from Apple? I want to make that
Yes, we
call
did.
out.
Yes, we
That
did.
I want to make it
I believe
again.
we did.
Okay, that if anyone at Apple is watching, please get Not Suspicious an Apple Vision Pro dev kit, a headset, so that they can try to do Airspace Defender for the Apple
It
App
needs to
Store.
happen.
And for that matter, if anyone at Google is watching, I don't know if Not Suspicious has an Android XR headset, but please get an Android XR headset to Not Suspicious as well. Gosh, if there's a Deckard out there, right?
Yeah.
Right. If anyone at Valve is out there, right, please get Not Suspicious a
If you've
headset,
got a
because we would
headset,
like to see some of these people are talking about the free to play model
mhm,
winning, the push towards it. We want to see devs get paid, and I typically I enjoy the exchange of pay for this thing up front. I'm getting guaranteed a certain number of hours at least that I'm going to get inside on the other side of that. Maybe it's 1 hour, right? I'm going to get on the other side of that. And then whatever in-app purchases I make on the other side of that is just for more content expanding upon this core repeatable thing that I go back
yeah,
to after that.
absolutely. And that
Yeah.
actually funny enough, that brings us almost kind of back into the core of the discussion because that was part of what was part of Meta's response. They were talking about in-app purchases are incredibly important for revenue, but also for keeping players engaged and coming back with fresh or new experiences and worlds to explore. Then they go on to cite Walkabout, Lucas Martel, talking about it keeps things active and alive and has allowed us to expand the game far beyond their wildest dreams. So that model works.
Yeah, so Not Suspicious. I don't know if our links make any difference to Apple. If you include them in your email as you try to convince them to get you your dev kit, but feel free to include our links. I don't think it'll make a difference, but good luck
just
to you.
just tell them Grey Dawn said that it was
Yeah,
okay.
Great On ordered it for you.
Mm-hmm.
with
So
Karma. He ordered it for you with Karma. Yeah.
yes.
All right, Don. I love the comments today. We have a very, very active
Very,
discussion.
very
I want
much
to make
so.
a call out to go listen to our podcast for VR Download. If
Mhm.
you're not a listener of that show, come on Thursdays with David Heaney and I as we dive into the larger things. I can't wait to dive into this deep. The subject that we discussed earlier in the show that we opened the show with, the IVAS program, we're going to cover that with David Heaney. I really, really enjoyed seeing your reactions live and the fact that you brought up Palmer Lucky's famous time cover live in our studio beautifully on command. Yeah, and that is the future of military hardware right there now on display. The future of VR is by all indications very strong, but we don't know how Meta is going to fit into it necessarily, which is kind of unheard of if you go back to 2013, right? Like
Yeah.
with them making this future. David over on VR Download will tell me how secure Meta is in its future. And I can't wait for that breakdown. We'll see how that goes down. However, I will be assigning Don on an ongoing basis to explore all the mods that exist outside of Meta's moderation
Mm-hmm.
protocols, right? Outside of
I
that
am
Meta
happy to do it.
ecosystem. Yeah, I'm wondering if there's any last comments we want to talk
I was
about
just
before we
looking.
end this.
Mr. Mycelium says that we need to pin we need to have like stuff like that on our walls. Like we should have that pinned of that cover behind my seat or something. You know, so that I could like illustrate it.
Well, yeah, I saw the people surprised that is an authentic photo. Yeah, that is a real photo. You go out and see it on our website. They apparently really did set up a camera to film Palmer Luckey in a recreation of his Time magazine cover with a background behind it, a real physical background. I think it's a display wall, but it's a physical background to my understanding. So yeah, that's real and it's here and it's happening. So thank you all for being on this journey with us. Thank you to Beck for broadcasting for us and for Don for putting these show notes together. You did an amazing job, both of you and all our audience. Thank you for the comments. Thank you to our patrons and members for supporting us in the work that we do. It is a big, big, big year for VR. Many, many changes in store. You're on a roller coaster with us. Thank you for being on it with us so far. And yeah, we'll see you in the future.